bigger and more powerful every year. The makeup of the vehicles to protect us, to keep us safe, stronger steel, stronger alloys, stronger tools. The specific cutter that Engineer Jensen's working with right now, it's 280,000 pounds at the scissor tip. So you can imagine something as wide as an eighth of an inch having almost 140 tons of pressure on it. That's why it can cut and do what it does. So you'll also notice the gentlemen are all wearing their fire protective clothing. Not only is this rated for fire protection in case there's an outbreak of fire within the vehicle, it also protects them from the sharp edges that they're creating after every cut they make. The downside with it here is that from the moment they put it on, within 5 minutes of being in it, they increase their body core temperature to 30 degrees. So right now, it's about 85 degrees here. Inside the turnouts, it's right in the neighborhood of 115 to 120. So for all intents and purposes, under a normal situation, the firefighters are only going to cut what they have to cut, obviously, because that keeps us within our golden hour. For demonstration purposes today, they're going to show you how they can make this car into a beer can in probably about 20 minutes. So when one team is on the driver's side, they're peeling the doors off. The gentleman on the cutter is getting ready to take the roof off the car. So by the time those doors pop off, 2 more cuts, the windshield comes off, and off comes the top. One of the more difficult things we do when we do extrication is trying to keep the patients inside calm. You can imagine what it must be like when the car's rocking, popping, making all kinds of noises that it shouldn't make. Trying to keep people calm, especially after an accident, is very difficult. Usually you'll find 1 to 2 firefighters inside the vehicle trying just to keep the patient calm. One of the things that just happened as well, you'll see that we have dual equipment on the ground at all times. The reason for that is so that if we have a failure of one of the hoses or one of the power plants, we can immediately go back to work with the secondary device, and that's exactly what just happened with the blue cord on the right side. Surprisingly enough, as cars get newer, technologies get better, the cars are much harder to cut apart. Not only because of the strength of the steel, but it's so lightweight that it also crinkles in specific spots to protect the occupants. So just to give you an idea, keep you guys are keeping track of time, we're at about 9 minutes. They've got half the roof cut and 3 doors off. while the gentlemen are finishing the extrication part. If any of you have any questions, please feel free to raise a hand and ask the question. I'll share the answer with the audience. The question came up about electric cars. Electric cars do present a different challenge as far as extrication goes. We do have the high voltage to consider. Could be as much as 600 current running through the system at any given time. Personnel across the country are well versed and trained in how to deal with those emergencies. One thing that the automotive industries have done is they've taken all the electrical high current circuits and made them either orange, yellow, or blue. So if we're going through a vehicle and we come across that, that's a no-go zone. Okay, good question. Okay, so one of the youth over here, she happens to be my daughter. She's, "Daddy, why don't you only take one door off?" Typically, sweetheart, we'd only take one door off. Remember, folks, this is demonstration only, and it's just to show you what your fire department's capabilities are.
Right here. What was the procedure before the jaws of life? I know it's been around for a long time, but you know, axes and saws and stuff.
Okay, so a question came about what did we do before the jaws of life? I've been in the fire service for 20 years. When I started, we had the jaws of life, but they were pneumatic tools only. So the breathing bottles that we utilized for our air packs actually ran our equipment. The problem with them is that they were only about 5 to 10% of the capacity we currently have. Okay? So in conjunction with those tools, we use high lift jacks, we use prying tools such as Halligan's bars, crowbars, pry bars, and a lot of mechanical advantage systems such as come-alongs, blocks, and paddles. So these gentlemen are taking advantage of their time. What they're doing here is a maneuver called a dash roll. This is indicative of a front end collision. So if you hit a solid object, head on with another vehicle, this is a maneuver that basically lifts the engine and the front of the car off of the pavement. Very common. Referencing the gentleman's question earlier, this maneuver used to be able to handle by just a 20,000 pound come along. We tied it right off to the steering column and just ratchet to the front bumper. On the right side of the car, Engineer Jensen's utilizing a ram, and that's going to push that front of that car forward and up. He has a lot of tools available. He has another ramp to his rear that will expand 68 inches.
Right here. Excuse me. What do you do about the fuel that's in a wrecked car? Gasoline.
A gentleman posed another question about what do we do with the fuel that's inside the car. The way fuel cells are built today, they maintain their integrity quite well. Typically, the only way we get a leak in the fuel cell is if it's directly punctured. So typically you'll see this on like a freeway incident where the vehicle goes off the road. It might hit into this chain link fence or a T-post. That can tend to puncture. Typically though, nowadays we see very little leaks of fuel, provided the vehicle is righted as it is. If the vehicle is upside down and it is leaking fuel, what we would do to change this scenario is off of the engines, we pull a hand line or an 1 3/4 water line, and it'd be manned with a firefighter at all times. Regardless of whether the fuel's on the ground, we still have to perform the work. So the captain just confirmed that they got about 10 inches of lift out of that car, which is fairly good. Should be plenty to remove any entrapment. With that being said, there's not much left of this car for these boys to cut up. So if you have any questions, we have plenty of time before the helicopter is going to touch down. This extrication took about 17 minutes. So just to let you know, you're in good hands with the Rocklin Fire Department.